So, what is being referred to as mysticism is just those dimensions of life that a large part of humanity has not bothered to seek and perceive. This is not beyond life. We are talking about life in its different dimensions. Perceiving life in its full depth and dimension should be everybody's business, but unfortunately, most human beings do not take to it. So, mysticism means to be in the know of life, to know the processes of life, to understand and perceive what is it about. Essentially, only what you perceive you know. The rest is all imagination. So whatever people cannot perceive right now, people are trying to imagine and believe. Belief systems have created phenomenal amount of division in humanity to a point where you can't fix it. Today all the conflict on this planet is not between good and evil as people try to project it. It is always about one man's belief versus another man's belief. You believe something, I believe something else. We are bound to fight someday. There's no question about it. Today we can sit together. But we are bound to fight someday when it becomes a crucial point. So we have succumbed to belief systems simply because as individuals, as society, as nations, as humanity as a whole, we have not invested the necessary time, effort, resource towards enhancing human perception. When I say enhancing human perception, right now the whole perception of a human being is limited to his five senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. This is the way you know life. Everything that you know about life is only through the five senses. And these five senses are sufficient instruments only to take care of the survival process. To handle the survival issues, these five senses are good. But to know life itself, they are no good. Because they don't give you a perception the way it is. Today, there is enough neurological proof on the planet, scientific proof on the planet, to clearly tell you what you see is not true. What you hear is not true. What you smell, taste, and touch is not true. It is not the way it is. We know this very clearly. What is light for us is darkness to some other creature on this planet. What is sound for us is silence for somebody else. It is just that our sense perception or our sense instruments have been designed for our survival. That's all. If survival is all we are seeking, these are fine. But there is something within a human being that is unwilling to settle for survival. He wants to be something more all the time. Maybe for all these thousands of years of existence on this planet, survival has been a dominant factor. But I think we have come to a point where at least for half the humanity on this planet, survival is sufficiently organized, like never before. Today you can go to a store and buy everything that you want to have.
Which is how you find the right guru, how you find...
I'm not saying this just to say something smart. I'm saying this because question is your creation, isn't it? You create a question. Because essentially, today questions may be used in many different ways, but essentially a question is a device to dig a little deeper into something. Me and spirituality were two ends of the world, no way to meet. I never sought spirituality. I did not even know that such thing existed. I grew up being a skeptic. Fed on European philosophy and skepticism. So spirituality was not my interest. I was so skeptical even as a child when I was just 4 or 5 years of age. My family is not a very religious family, but once a year or something they go to a temple. This is a ritual for them, a social ritual that they have to fulfill. Even that one day in a year, I have questions. They cannot answer the question, I will not enter the temple. They never got around to answer the question, so I never entered. So I was such a skeptic. So spirituality or enlightenment was not my seeking. This is exactly what I am trying to tell you. Something will not come to you because you seek it. Something will come to you because you do the right things. You sit here and pray for mangoes, mangoes will not come. You imagine mangoes, mangoes will not come. If you want mangoes in your garden, you think soil, you think manure, you think water. Nobody ever thinks that soil, manure, water has anything to do with mangoes, but in farmer knows that it has everything to do with mangoes. So similarly,